Oh yeah, Hardwick says, now that I think about it, people have told me in the past that I fight a little better when I'm not drunk. I suppose it's been so long since I've been sober that I simply forgot. Hardwick, my friend, Darren says, this fighting style of yours isn't just a little better, it's a huge improvement. I could barely wrap my head around it. I've seen you fight so he's been fighting drunk this whole time. That's kind of insane. I've seen you fight countless times. If you already know that you can fight so much better without drinking, then why not just take a break from alcohol until the tournament is over? Don't you want to be your strongest when fighting your opponents? Hardwick says, how am I going to explain this to you that makes sense? You see, to me, drinking alcohol is like breathing air. If someone were to come to you now and tell you that you could fight 10 times better if you stopped breathing, would you do it? I suppose you could do it in short bursts then. I suppose I should have known that you'd say something like this. Darren says, never mind, forget that I even asked. Iluna, are you done with those dishes? Almost, Iluna says. These two are the last ones. Once Iluna is done with the plates, we put them back in Hardwick's backpack, then go to the finish dismantling our tents. We leave 10 minutes later, heading the direction of the nearest sacred forest. According to Diane, if we keep up our usual pace, we should get there at some point in the afternoon. We still haven't decided exactly what we are planning to do if the fox happens to catch us on her territory again, but we're looking for pine cones. But I suppose when we have so many strong enemies already, adding one more to the list shouldn't make much of a difference. On our way to our destination, I noticed that Diane was being a lot less insistent on trying to be friends with anyone. As a result, she would act more naturally, which in turn also allowed Hardwick and Darren to be a little more relaxed in their conversation with her. It's nice to see that my advice is working out for her. Maybe it was a good idea to talk to her about this after all. Oh gods, Flower exclaims. Not even an hour after our departure, she points excitedly at some very mundane looking rock. Barry, do you see that? It's a cloak shield rock, Barry. I see it. I say in a very unenthusiastic tone. That rock looks like nothing like a cloak or a shield. Darren says, why would you call it that? After hearing what Darren had to say, Flower shakes her head in disapproval and looks at him as if he were some simpleton that had no taste for the fine arts. You wouldn't understand, she says. Then she goes to grab the stone from the ground. Over crying out loud, Naraka says all of a sudden, not another one of these. Yeah, there are a lot of rocks here on the earthen plane, Hardwick says. Better get used to it. Not the rock, you moron. Araka says, one of Aiden's invisible spells that he has been casting all over the continent. The girl just ran right into it with my amulet hanging around her neck. I always get a tingling sensation whenever she does that. It's extremely annoying. You said not another one of these, Aaron says. How many of these spells have you been detecting lately? In the past 2 days? Araka says 5 of them, and that's only the ones that Flower happened to run into. There may have been more, but I don't really bother to actively look for them. Apparently, Aiden's been very busy lately. Do you have any idea what he's been using these spells for? I say. Nope, Araka says. If I absolutely wanted to, I could probably figure it out, but you'd need to stand in place. Let me analyze one of these for at least a day, or maybe more. Trust me, it would be a waste of time for all of us. Would it be? I mean, it's probably like a super dangerous spell, so we should probably know what it is. Though, not probably while Diane is here. Too bad, Darren says. If you could have done it only a few hours, it might have been worth it. If it has been placing so many of them around the continent, then these spells must be very important to him. Here's an idea, Araka says. How about you don't try to antagonize Aiden too? While we are already busy making plans to kill the gods and the copy version of me from the past, let's take things one at a time, shall we? Fine, Darren says. But for the record, I wasn't trying to antagonize him or anything. I was just thinking that maybe if we found out what he was after, we could better understand his motivation. Maybe that could help us find some common ground with him. Sure you were, Araka says in a sarcastic tone. Sure you were, Araka says in a sarcastic tone. Alright, move along, folks. Nothing to see here. As soon as we leave the area, Flower pulls out her receiver, then she shouts into it loudly. Hey Melindra, she says, you'll never guess what rock I found lying in the grounds in the middle of the woods. Our discussion with Melindra continues for the next 15 minutes or so. Of course, during this time, they could not abstain themselves from including me in their conversation, as a fellow connoisseur of the sophisticated art of rock collecting. Whenever this happens, the other members of our group tend to slowly distance themselves from us while they're walking, so that they can talk about literally anything else without having to hear about rocks for the 100th time in a row. Technically, I could be doing the same thing as them, just let Flower alone with Melindra on the transceiver, but I guess just don't have the heart for it. Or maybe I'm just developing some sort of masochistic urge to listen to boring rock discussions whenever I have the opportunity. Who knows? So, Kate says, does anyone else want to talk about the four mages that have been heading in our direction for a good few minutes, or are we just going to keep ignoring them? The last few groups that we have sent for past 2 days have been avoiding us eventually. Dylan says, so far there's no reason to think that they won't do the same. It's different this time, Kate says. They clearly sensed us too and are moving to intercept us. If we keep walking at this speed, it will only take them a few minutes until we come face to face with them. Alright, I don't want to be distracting you, so I'll leave you guys to it, Melinda says from the transceiver. Stay safe, Flower. You too, Melinda. Flower says bye. Do you guys think I should fly ahead and do some scouting before you run into them? I ask the others as Flower closes the transceiver. Look, Barry, Darren says, I know you're excited to try out your new flying technique in an actual non-training scenario, but maybe this isn't really the time to do it. I doubt you could find out much more about them by watching them from above than we already know about from their auras. But if they have really long-range spells in their arsenal, you could risk getting attacked. Let's all stick together for now. Yeah, I do agree. I don't know why he even brought that up. Agree with Darren and stay with the group. Yeah, you're right, I say. Let's just stick together. We'll see what happens when it happens. Technically, it's still possible that they all have really bad magical sense and just haven't detected us, yes, Darren says. Let's keep moving in the same... That's unnecessarily optimistic. Let's keep moving in the same direction for a while and see what they are doing before we make our final decision. We do as Darren says and keep walking for about 2 more minutes. During this time, the 4 mages that we sensed before have stopped moving completely. It's becoming increasingly more likely they're simply waiting for us to reach them. Realizing that this is the most probable scenario, we all stop as well, so that we can have a short discussion amongst ourselves about what we are planning to do next. So what do you guys think? Darren says, could these guys be friendly, or are they challenging us to a fight? There's no way to know with just the information we currently have, Kate says. At the moment, we can't even be sure if we have met them before or not. You haven't met them before, Arka says. That I can confirm to you. Well, then I have no idea what they could want from us, Kate says. Maybe they're hostile, or maybe they just want to ask us if we found any pine cones. All we can do is guess. We could go around them if we want, Diane says. It will take a little longer. We will reach the sacred woods eventually. No way, Hadrick says loudly. I haven't had a fight other than my sparring session with Darren since Olander. You're telling me to walk away from a battle of my own free will? If these guys want a piece of me, then they'll get one. Mark my words. I also agree that there is no point in trying to avoid them, Kate says. We can all sense each other, so if they see we are going around them, they'll just come after us instead. Confronting them directly is likely a best option in this situation. Hadrick says, and that's what I like to hear. If everyone's okay with it, then we'll just keep moving forward, Darren says. I'll just be on the lookout because they have a bit of time to set up traps until we get there. We keep walking for 2 more minutes or so. We eventually reach a large area without trees, which is apparently where the 4 mages have stopped to wait for us. Now we're finally getting a good look at our ambushers. I see that 3 of them are wearing black robes and a bald head with snake tattoos on them, looking almost like an exact copies of Zack the Necromancer. That's from the first book. Zack the Necromancer that we met during our first week in Morathia. Well, the fourth one is wearing green robes and has a silver circlet in his hand, meaning that he is likely a follower god of fate. Just as Darren was about to call out to them, one of the necromancers steps in front of the group, shouts to us instead. Before we begin, the necromancer says, I would like to congratulate you all for actually showing up to face us even after sensing our obviously superior magical power. Most people tend to cower in fear before us, so you are at least to be commended for your bravery, if nothing else. You're kidding, right? Darren says to him. It's clear as day that we're way stronger than you and there are more of us. Is your magical sense defective or something? After hearing what Darren had to say, all 3 of them necromancers begin to laugh in unison, until the necromancer in front of them, who seems to be the leader of sorts, slowly becomes silent again and signals the other 2 to do the same. The only thing that is clear, the necromancer says, is that your simple minds cannot even begin to comprehend the immense difference in powers between us devout followers of our god, you faithful wretches who have to use books and scrolls to even have a chance at casting mediocre spells. But since you have amused me today, I am inclined to let you live as long as you hand over the little girl to us without posing any resistance. What? Darren says, confused. Why? What business could you possibly have with Flower? The god of death needs to use her as a hostage against the Stillwater called Aiden. And the necromancer leader says, once we are done with her, if she is still alive, we will return her to you. I don't understand, Diane says. Why would your god from the magical plane evil be concerned with the still water from our plane of existence? And why would Aiden care if Flower was alive or not? I wasn't even aware that they knew each other. Have you been living under a rock for the past 3 days? The necromancer leader shouts. Do you not know that there is a war occurring between the gods in the magical plane as we speak?